When Daniel, a young ambitious entrepreneur, fell in love with Sophia, he thought his life was complete. But everything shattered when she suddenly vanished, leaving behind only a note with 7 words that burned through his soul. "You're not the father. Forget us forever." Daniel buried himself in his work, building an empire that turned him into one of the youngest millionaire CEOs in the city. Yet, no amount of wealth could fill the emptiness inside him, the unanswered questions, the sleepless nights replaying every moment with her. 4 years later, fate played its cruel hand. At a charity gala, Daniel's eyes locked on a child, blue-eyed, golden-haired, the very reflection of himself at that age. The boy clung to Sophia's hand. In that instant, Daniel's heart stopped. The truth Sophia had hidden came crashing down, and nothing would ever be the same again. Daniel Carter had always been the kind of man who refused to fail. Born into a modest family, he had climbed every rung of success through grit, determination, and a vision bigger than anyone around him could imagine. But for all his achievements, his greatest treasure was never his growing bank account, it was Sophia Bennett. Sophia had walked into his life like sunlight piercing through clouds. She was radiant, intelligent, and carried herself with a grace that made Daniel feel as though he'd finally found his equal. Together, they were unstoppable partners in love, and soon, Daniel believed, partners in building a family. When Sophia told him she was pregnant, Daniel's world expanded. He began preparing to be a father, buying baby clothes, researching names, even redecorating his apartment into a home fit for a child. His heart brimmed with joy at the thought of becoming dad. But then, without warning, everything crumbled. One evening, he returned home to find Sophia gone. No explanation, no trisimile, a handwritten note on the kitchen counter. The words stabbed him in the chest. "You're not the father. Forget us forever." Daniel read the note again and again, unable to believe what his eyes saw. His heart battled with his mind. Was she lying? Or had their love been nothing but an illusion? He tried to call her, but the number was disconnected. He searched for her at her apartment, but it was emptied out. Sophia had vanished, taking his dreams with her. For weeks, Daniel spiraled into a darkness he'd never known. The laughter they shared, the promises whispered late at night, the dreams of holding their child, all of it replayed in his head. Like a cruel joke, he couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Anger and heartbreak tore at him. But if Sophia's departure had broken him, it also lit a fire in his soul. Daniel poured every ounce of his pain into work. He expanded his small startup into a global enterprise, his ambition fueled by the void she left behind. By the time he was 32, he was no longer just a businessman, he was a millionaire CEO, gracing magazine covers and being hailed as one of the most powerful men in the city. Yet, no matter how high he climbed, every night when the world went quiet, the emptiness returned. He could silence the boardroom with a single word, but he couldn't silence the memory of Sophia's note. He could buy anything money could offer, but he couldn't buy answers. For years past, Daniel had convinced himself to bury the past, to seal away the pain in a place so deep that even he couldn't touch it, or so he thought. It was at a charity gala, filled with glittering chandeliers and champagne glasses, where fate struck again. Daniel moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his tailored suit exuding power. But then his eyes caught something, or, rather, someone that made his entire world freeze. Across the room, Sophia stood. Time had changed her, but Daniel would have recognized her anywhere. Her hair was longer, her face softer, but her eyes, those same eyes that once looked at him with love, were now shadowed by something else. And clinging to her hand was a little boy, no older than 4. Daniel's breath hitched. The child looked up at Sophia, then turned toward the room. Blue eyes, blonde hair, features so achingly familiar they punched Daniel in the gut. It was like looking into a mirror of his own childhood photographs. His glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the marble floor. Heads turned, whispers rippled, but Daniel couldn't hear them. All he could hear was the pounding of his heart and the echo of Sophia's words, "You're not the father." But standing there, staring at the boy, Daniel knew the truth. Sophia had lied. The gala blurred around Daniel like a dream he couldn't wake from. Music played, glasses clinked, people laughed, but none of it reached him. His eyes locked only on Sophia and the boy. For a moment, he stood frozen, anger and disbelief crashing through him. Then, with steady steps, he crossed the room. Sophia turned, just as he approached, and her face went pale. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. The boy tugged at her dress, whispering something only she could hear. Daniel's voice was low, controlled, but trembling with years of suppressed rage. "Tell me he isn't mine." Sophia swallowed hard, her eyes glistening. "Daniel, not here, please, for years, Sophia." His voice cracked, heads turning toward them. "You disappeared. You left me with nothing but a lie. And now, I see him, my son, and you expect me to stay quiet." The room fell silent. Sophia grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a quieter corridor, away from the crowd. Her composure crumbled. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she whispered, "I lied because I had no choice." Daniel's fists clenched. "No choice. You tore my life apart. You made me believe I wasn't his father. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" Her voice shook. "If I told you the truth, they would have destroyed you, Daniel. I was protecting you." His breath caught, "Protecting me. From what?" Sophia's gaze darted to the child, who clung tightly to her hand, watching them both with innocent curiosity. She lowered her voice. "From my father." Daniel frowned. "Your father? What does he? You don't understand," Sophia interrupted, panic rising in her voice. "He hated you. He hated what we had. He threatened me, Daniel. He said if I didn't leave, he would ruin you, destroy your company before it even started, and make sure you never saw your child. I believed him. I thought keeping you away was the only way to keep you safe." Daniel staggered back as if struck. "So you chose to lie? To vanish? To let me believe I was nothing to him?" His eyes burned, tears fighting to escape. "Do you know how many nights I sat alone, wishing I could just hold my son?" Sophia sobbed openly now. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought, if I carried the burden, at least you could live free." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of the little boy's voice. "Mommy, who is he?" Daniel's heart nearly stopped. The boy's eyes, so innocent, so familiar, looked up at him with curiosity. Daniel knelt, his hands trembling, and whispered, I'm someone who should have been in your life from the very beginning." The boy tilted his head, then gave a small smile, the same crooked smile Daniel had as a child. That smile shattered what was left of Daniel's defenses. He looked up at Sophia, his voice breaking. "You stole 4 years from me. 4 years I will never get back." Sophia wiped her tears, her face filled with guilt. "I know, and I will never forgive myself. But, Daniel, he needs you now. More than ever." Daniel's chest heaved. Anger warred with love, betrayal with longing. He had dreamed of being a father, of holding his son, of guiding him, and now that dream was here, alive and breathing before him, but tangled in the thorns of lies and broken trust. He reached out, his hand brushing the boy's cheek. The child leaned into his touch without hesitation. In that instant, Daniel knew, no matter the lies, no matter the years lost, nothing would keep him from his son again. But deep inside, another question loomed. If Sophia's father had gone to such lengths to keep them apart, was the danger truly gone? Or had it just begun? Daniel couldn't sleep that night. The image of his son, his smile, his eyes, the way he leaned into his touch burned into his mind. 4 years of absence weighed heavily on him, replaced by an ache for the moments he had missed. The first steps, the first words, the birthdays he should have celebrated. But underneath the sorrow simmered determination. He had lost too much already. He would not lose his son again. The next morning, Daniel called Sophia. His tone was steady, but his words cut deep. "I want the truth. All of it. No more half-stories. If I'm going to be in my son's life, I need to know what we're up against." Sophia's voice wavered. "You don't understand the kind of man my father is. He doesn't forgive. If he learns you're back in our lives," Daniel interrupted, "then let him come. I'm not the same man I was 4 years ago. I have power, influence, and most importantly, I have the right to know my son. Nothing will stop me this time." That afternoon, Sophia reluctantly arrived at Daniel's penthouse with the boy Ethan. The name hit Daniel like a dagger and a gift all at once. Ethan, the name he and Sophia once chose together in a quiet moment of love. She had kept it. When Ethan entered the apartment, his curious eyes darted around the vast space, but it was Daniel he studied the most. The boy's innocence cut through the walls Daniel had built. He knelt again, pulling a small toy car from his desk. "This was my favorite when I was your age," he said softly. "Do you like cars?" Ethan's face lit up. "I love cars," he exclaimed, grabbing the toy and racing it across the table. Daniel's chest swelled with warmth he hadn't felt in years. In that simple moment, father and son connected as though time itself bowed to destiny. but shadows still lingered. Later, as Ethan played in the living room, Daniel and Sophia sat across from each other. "You need to understand," Sophia said, her voice trembling. "My father, he's dangerous. He controls people. Money, connections, intimidation, he'll do anything to keep Ethan under his influence and away from you. He believes children should serve the family legacy, not live freely. That's why I left. I didn't want Ethan raised under his iron fist." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then he'll have to go through me." Sophia shook her head. "He'll destroy everything you've built. He doesn't fight fair." Daniel leaned forward, his voice sharp with conviction. "I've built an empire from nothing. I've faced men who told me I would fail, people who tried to break me. I'm still here. If he wants a war, he'll get one, but I will not abandon Ethan. Not again." The following weeks turned into a silent battle. Rumors spread in the business world, deals falling through mysteriously, board members receiving threats. Daniel knew whose hand was behind it, but instead of folding, he doubled down. He used every connection, every resource, to protect not only his company but also Sophia and Ethan, and in the middle of the storm, he discovered something priceless: fatherhood. He picked Ethan up from school, taught him how to swim in the penthouse pool, and read him bedtime stories when Sophia had to work late. Each laugh, each hug, each sleepy goodnight. Dad stitched together the broken pieces of Daniel's heart. One evening, as he tucked Ethan into bed, the boy whispered, "Are you going to leave like Mommy said you did?" Daniel froze, then kissed his forehead. "Never. I promise you, Ethan, I'll always be here." Those words became his vow. The final confrontation came at a shareholders' meeting. Sophia's father, Richard Bennett, stormed into the boardroom, flanked by his men. His presence was like ice, commanding, merciless. "You think you can steal my grandson?" Richard sneered. "You're nothing compared to me. I'll bury you, Carter." Daniel rose calmly, every eye in the room on him. "No," he said firmly. "You're finished controlling him. Ethan is not your legacy. He's my son, and I'll fight you in every court, every boardroom, every street corner if I have to." For the first time, Richard faltered. He saw in Daniel's eyes the one thing money couldn't buy: unbreakable resolve. Legal battles followed, but Daniel's influence and truth prevailed. DNA tests silenced any doubt. The courts ruled in Daniel's favor, granting him joint custody, and with Sophia by his side, Richard's grip finally shattered. Months later, life was different, quieter, fuller, better. Daniel often found himself sitting on the porch of their new countryside home, Ethan playing in the yard, Sophia watching with a smile. The storm was over. One night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan climbed into his lap and whispered, "Dad, you're my hero." Tears stung Daniel's eyes. He wrapped his arms around his son and whispered back, "No, Ethan, you saved me." Because sometimes, the greatest empires aren't built from wealth or power but from love, truth, and the family you fight for. This story isn't just about a millionaire CEO, a lie, or a court battle. It's about truth, resilience, and the power of love that refuses to be silenced. Daniel lost 4 years of his son's life because of betrayal and fear, but when the truth surfaced, he didn't run. He stood his ground, fought against an empire, and reclaimed what truly mattered: his child. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. No matter how powerful the lies, the truth always finds a way. No matter how long you've been kept away, real love always fights its way back home. If this story moved you, imagine how many more lives it could touch. Share it, subscribe for more stories that grip the soul, and never forget, sometimes the greatest victories aren't found in boardrooms or bank accounts. They're found in the arms of those we love.